Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Right now in Warzone, the close range meta has a ton of just phenomenal options, whether you're looking for an SMG, maybe a shotgun, all sorts of different era close range options as well are super competitive right now. And so today I wanted to go through and break down the absolute best close range weapons and of course the best loadouts for them. So first up here we have a classic that we were running a ton of back during MW3 Warzone, and that is the BP50 conversion kit, the aftermarket part on this thing that basically turns it from a rifle into a top tier SMG, great for the close range. Its first damage range, one of the quickest TTKs in the game. It does drop off pretty quickly after that, but of course we're focused on the close range, and this is very good in the ultra close range. Unfortunately, being that it's an MW3 weapon and it's got an aftermarket part on it, it means the attachment selection here is wildly buggy. So obviously you want the Revenger kit on there. This completely changes how the weapon feels, adds in some control, speeds up the ADS, gives you a 60 round mag, helps out the fire rate to give you that quick TTK, but then it limits a ton of what you're able to use here. So I do still run a suppressor here. I go for Spirit Fire. This actually gives you some better range than some of these other suppressors as of right now, which is weird because every suppressor is supposed to be the same basically. Also some velocity. Really we care about the range. We're out to a 15 almost 16 meter effective damage range here when we stack the Spirit Fire suppressor, then also the high grain ammo on here, which obviously helps out with velocity and range as well. Now when I tried to put on the rear grip, it yelled at me, said I couldn't, but I did it anyways because it's just how this game works right now. And this is going to help out with some general control here with the Trust 4 grip tape. You could also go for something like the tack grip tape if you wanted a better sprint to fire, but I like the free recoil out of this. It's already very snappy and very aggressive. Then I also go for the Kimura laser, which does help out with sprint to fire and ADS just because you really can't use anything else. I like the iron sights on this thing personally, so I don't need an optic there. And while the underbarrel isn't a warning area, it doesn't let you put any of these on there for real. I tried. It takes off the aftermarket part. So there's something going on with that that's a little bit weird, but nonetheless, decent BP50 setup, as awkward as it is, you know, with all the random attachment bugs that are going on, but the thing fries in game. Following that, another MW3 conversion kit that's crazy good is actually the Renetti with the conversion kit, and this is convenient if you don't want to run overkill. If you want to run gunfighter or you want to run battle ready or something else and you're just getting a pistol as a secondary, this is one of the best pistols in the entire game because it's basically a mini SMG, right? So this thing's gonna have a super quick TTK up close. Unfortunately, again, because it's an MW3 aftermarket part, the ideal setup here ends up being very buggy. So obviously, first and foremost, you've got the Ferocity carbine kit on here. It does actually restrict more than it lets on, which is really strange, but like you try and put an optic on this thing, for instance, like I really like the Nidar, or a slate would be good, or a different you know, scope, a reflector sight, but you put on an optic here on the attachments and then you load into a game and the optic just does not load in. So this is a setup that is not fully working as intended. If you absolutely wanted to force an optic on here, you'd have to have a blueprint that actually has an optic already built into it, and I think there are a couple of those for what it's worth. The mod suppressor is pretty solid here. It is in this case going to function like those other suppressors do when you go through and you look at several of those. They're going to basically end up doing the same thing with added velocity and added range. So we're out to just over a 10 meter effective damage range here with that super fast TTK. All the vertical underbarrels should be doing the same thing here in terms of control. So this is just going to make the weapon a little bit easier to use. Then lastly, the 50 round extended mag. So you can just spray and pray. Obviously, being full auto, you're going to burn through ammo, and 30 just is not always enough if you're playing duos, trios, quads. 50 is that great safety net to have there. So this thing, again, while maybe not the most convenient attachment situation going on with some of the gunsmith bugs, actually is a phenomenal weapon in game. Following that, another fantastic close range option is the Marine SP. This in particular is a tack stance build, which actually functions with the same damage as ADS. It's just a lot more aggressive in my opinion, and this thing has a good 2-shot range. They did nerf it slightly, but it's still very good, and up close, if you hit all shots to the head, it has the potential to one-shot down a player with full plates, which obviously is super powerful. Like if you're talking close range meta, the closest close range meta, this thing is utterly dominant there. So modified choke in this case will help out with that ADS pellet spread. Full choke would also work here if you wanted a more hip fire based build, but we like the tack stance there. Reinforced barrel not only gives me a 9-round mag, but also ends up helping out that damage range as well. So we push that out to a whopping 1.4 meters where that can one-shot headshot. But hey, if you're barrel stuffing, this thing will basically be unbeatable, right? Balanced stock here. I like the added strafe, the added movement, the added sprint to fire on there. For what it's worth, something something like quick draw could work well if you wanted a fully ADS build, or even something like agility stock, which helps out with movement and ADS and whatnot. Like, there's a lot of good options here for sure. I personally just like the feel of balance stock. Tack laser, so I can flip this thing into tack stance where it's obviously a lot more aggressive, and then also rapid fire, just so I can get those shots off faster, back to back to back. Obviously, being a pump action shotgun, you want to be able to fire it as fast as you possibly can so you can get that quickest TTK, and this thing right now is very, very strong. Now, MW3 subs are surprisingly good, and the striker is one of those that has a quick TTK and a phenomenal damage range. So that's kind of the best of both worlds with an already very aggressive, very easy to use SMG. Of course, it's not a Bo6 gun, so it does feel a little bit different, and the attachments certainly, again, are not fully functioning as intended, but this thing fries for sure. So I go for an optic here. I don't really love the iron sights, especially with just how the weapon behaves. I'm much more accurate with something like a slate or a nighthour or a reflector sight. Use whatever you want to there, whatever you are the most comfortable with. I also go for sonic suppressor in this case, again, just extending out that velocity and that range. We're stacking quite a few attachments here to get just under a 14-meter effective damage range and over a 660 velo, which is really good for like sniper support, and then obviously the super close range as well. The recon long barrel is going to stack more on that velocity and range, which obviously is super convenient there. I like Jack Slash. Not only am I getting some control here, I'm also getting a little bit of movement speed, a little bit of sprint speed too. So I'm more aggressive and the weapon's easier to use. That's a win-win in my opinion. Then the 60 round extended mag, pretty basic here. Great safety net for any squad size. Definitely nice to see the striker actually able to compete with several Bo6 options. And by the way, as we are breaking down all the close range builds today, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, a like rating is seriously appreciated. It really does help grow the channel. I seriously do appreciate all the support you guys have been showing on the videos ever since Bo6 and Warzone dropped. And of course, if you're new to the channel, maybe you haven't subscribed yet, we should change that. Every single day, I got you covered with everything you need to know about COD, whether it's updates, which there have been a ton of, and there will continue to be a ton of, all the new news and announcements when they're revealing new updates, seasonal stuff, mid-season updates, and of course, meta breakdowns like this as well. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, join us on the road to 1 million. Now, of course, the Jackal is frying. This is no stranger to the close range meta, been a top tier weapon since day one, really a top tier weapon since the Bo6 multiplayer beta. Then it was good in multiplayer, and it's good here in Warzone as well. Surprise, surprise. This thing is definitely my most used weapon so far. Probably the closest I have to getting all the camos done on it too. But initially here, just the basic suppressor, keeping me off the radar. That's it, nothing more to it there. Reinforced barrel helping out with some range and some velocity, so over a 660 velo works great. Then almost a 13-meter effective damage range is really, really good for this SMG as well. Ranger foregrip gives me some horizontal control, so the weapon is easier to use, but it's more aggressive too with the sprinting movement speed, and I love that as a bonus there. Extended mag 2 gives me a 50-round extended mag. That works pretty good for all squad sizes as well. Then again, the balance stock here is just so good with all the movement benefits it offers with movement, strafe, hip fire movement. It's just making the weapon a lot more aggressive. Absolutely been loving the Jackal since launch. Hey everyone, quick little announcement. Right now, Gamer Advantage is doing their best sale of the year. Of course, you guys always see me rocking my Gamer Advantage frames. The new Horizon 2.0 frames are my brand new favorites, upgrading from the original Horizons, which of course you always saw me wearing in the videos. But right now, for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, Gamer Advantage is running a ton of deals. Almost everything on the site has some kind of discount applied to it. Plus, if you use code WhosImmortal at checkout, that stacks on top of the holiday discounts as well, so you can save even more money. So now is the best time possible to go through, grab yourself a pair of GA frames. They got different frames and colorways to fit your style, prescription and regular lenses, quite literally something for everyone. The link will be down in the description below if you're interested. Now, we just talked the base striker being a great close range option, and the Striker 9 is right there with it with a crazy good damage range and a super quick TTK in those roughly first 2 damage ranges is really where it thrives the most, while also being a very aggressive SMG and decently easy to use, especially with this setup on here. So initially, high grain ammo going to extend out that velocity and that range, almost a 660 velo, and we got almost a 13-meter effective damage range as well. Stacking on that, we also have the sonic suppressor, which of course helps out with range and velocity there too. Again, whatever scope you're comfortable with here, run that. For me in this case, it's the Night Hour, but if there's a different one you like more, no wrong answer there. Jack slash on here as well, vertical control, so just makes it a little bit easier to use. Then sprint speed and movement speed benefits are obviously always very valuable there. Then the 50 round extended mag here works just fine for all squad sizes as well. So very similar setup to what we were running over on the base striker. This thing feels very, very good though. Another great MW3 sub that's currently pretty solid in the close range meta is actually the static HV. Very low recoil SMG, has a lot of different versatile builds, and of course a quick TTK being the most important thing here too. Really good TTK through its first couple of damage ranges, similar to the striker builds as well. So with this, again, not our model 2023, whatever scope you want to run, go for that, you're all good there. Sonic suppressor, better range, better velocity on that. You could either go two different routes with your barrel here. If you want more of like a sniper support build, a very versatile build, the long barrel is great here. It helps out with velocity and range. That's going to extend our range out to just under 14 meters and almost a 700 velocity. Or if you want something that's just way more snappy and aggressive for just the close range, the light barrel is going to be great here too. It'll hurt your recoil a little bit there, but it's also going to help out with your ADS, your sprint to fire, your movement, and just make the weapon a lot more aggressive. Skeletal vertical grip will be the same as all the other vertical grips, just offering up some free control there with basically no cons. Then the light stock helps out with movement, base movement, sprint, strafe, ADS speed, all fantastic and very important stats on an SMG. So that ends up feeling aggressive, easy to use, then either has great range or can be even more aggressive if you wanted to as well. Really liking the feel of the static so far. Now, maybe my favorite close range weapon in the game so far is the PP919, the Bison. This thing just has a feel about it that is so fun to use. It's incredibly forgiving with its default large extended mag, super clean iron sights, low recoil. I just love the feel of this thing. It is a phenomenal, fun SMG to run, and it's got a great rewarding game in terms of just how good it is and how competitive it is. So just the basic suppressor here, yet again, keeping me off the radar, nice and stealthy like. We also got the reinforced barrel here too. Range, velocity, we're out to over 15 meters for our effective damage range, just over 700 for our velocity. Ergonomic rear grip will help out with that ADS speed, the dive to fire, and the slide to fire. So the ADS speed is definitely the one noticeable con of this gun. Even with the ergonomic on here, we're at a 200 millisecond ADS. Not the snappiest, so you do got to pre-aim a little bit, but it could be worse, I'll be honest with you, right? Balanced stock on here obviously helps out with all those movement benefits. Then I like recoil springs on here too. It just makes the weapon a lot easier to use. If you wanted to test out rapid fire, it's going to hurt the damage and the range and the velo a little bit, but it's also going to speed up that fire rate and potentially help out with that close range TTK. So if you want to do experiment with this and you like the feel of it, go for it. But if you just want a super consistent, super reliable SMG, recoil springs on there, this thing's going to be a laser and you're going to melt. And then lastly here, another one that I'm kind of surprised by, the FJX Horus. This thing is particularly good in its first damage range exclusively. Beyond that, it drops off harsh. It's not really that great. In its first damage range though, it's the fastest TTK SMG. So when we're talking close range, this is the definition of that, right? Setup is a little bit interesting here, a little bit different from what we've talked about before. Again, whatever optic you want to run here, it's your choice. I don't like the irons. I find myself to be way more accurate when I'm using something like a Night Hour or a Slate. I actually go for Quartermaster here, which helps out with control across the board, just because this thing's got a decent bit of control. It's tough to find a build with this thing where it is laser accurate. And yes, it does hurt your ADS and your sprint to fire a tad bit there, but that's something to sort of live with. If you're pre-aiming, you're going to be just fine. The TTK and the control you get out of it to get that best TTK, I think is worth running Quartermaster. The long barrel on here is going to help out with velocity and range. Obviously, if we can extend that effective damage range, we're just under 10 meters right now. The more we can get that out there, the better, because that's where it's going to be the fastest TTK in the game for SMGs. Jack slash yet again helps out with that control as mentioned, but also gives us some movement speed back. Then I go for the 60 round extended mag. You definitely want that on here with this thing, just because that fire rate is pretty wild. So you're going to burn through ammo, but if you can put those bullets on a target, they are going to drop crazy fast. And that being said, those are the best close range meta options in Warzone right now. That's gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, a like on your way out would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications to guarantee you are in the know for everything going on in Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.